In video games, there's no experience quite as cathartic as the original Doom.
You guys want to play Doom?
Having taken the work done by Wolfenstein 3D and given it a much needed shot of adrenaline, id very much set the standard for what would eventually blossom into a brand new genre for video games. A powerhouse of performance, pushing three-dimensional environments with layers of elevation and secluded areas, presented from a first-person viewpoint. While previous games and developers had dabbled with similar technology and ideas, none did it as confidently as Doom, nor leave quite the same impression. Your setup is simple. Banish the forces of hell with enormous firepower, set against the backdrop of the Martian landscape. A heavy metal fantasy, rendered in gory detail. The title became a cultural phenomenon, a public enemy to the moral majority, and most of all, the first step towards the proliferation of the first-person shooter. However, the greatest trick that Doom pulls is upending your expectations. Beyond the veneer of its bold and brash presentation, the game is very sophisticated, with systems that came about due to the affordance of a 3D presentation. Levels are designed as non-linear puzzle boxes, with a mix of wide-open arenas and winding corridors, broken up with key-coded doors, switches and platforming challenges. Enemies are a cast of monsters with unique behaviours and appearances that mix well with one another in order to create unique set-piece encounters. Finally, your main influence on the world, an arsenal of weapons, is designed to fit within an easy-to-recognise set of systems. From a pistol that deals little damage but appears in abundance, a chain gun that eats your ammunition for a wide and painful bullet spread, a plasma rifle that shoots slow projectiles that curl from your moving reticle, and Doom's most iconic weapon, the BFG, a screen-clearing rain of plasma fire you should only use for special occasions. Doom paved the way for id's full 3D follow-up Quake, which provided the backbone to the cinematic and narrative-driven Half-Life, which only became more improved in the second title. Its success allowed home console developers to try and replicate its systems, with the most well-regarded being GoldenEye 007, which led the way for the Xbox killer app Halo. These two diversion paths crossed over around the time of the Medal of Honor games, which directly led into the blockbuster success of the Call of Duty franchise. This isn't to mention the many other branches from Doom's formula, which provided a platform for early 3D games, games with a first-person perspective, or ones with rich multiplayer and user-created content. However, if there's one particular facet to Doom that all developers look to improve upon, it was performance and technology, to make the continued push towards the goal for photorealistic simulation. Released in 2004, Doom 3 was the follow-up to Ultimate Doom, and the first game in the franchise to fully embrace a polygonal presentation. Spearheaded by Doom's original programmer, John Carmack, the decision was made to have the game be a technical showcase for their id Tech Engine 4. Designed to push advanced lighting and shading techniques, it was a technical showcase for technology at the time, but one that came at a cost to Doom's identity. The series had taken a new direction, a darker and more self-serious tone, with a focus on the horror of the hellspawn you're facing. Open arenas became more directed to fit a stronger narrative focus, and engagement was pared down to only a few enemies at a time, usually in cramped and dimly lit environments to ramp up the fear factor. The game was a commercial and critical success, though you could argue that, as a follow-up to the original titles, it had very little in common with them, nor did it do anything unique to what was already being done in first-person shooters. It would take 12 years for a fourth follow-up to the franchise, one that was shaping up to capitalise on the popularity of modern warfare. Fortunately, id decided to go back to the drawing board and re-evaluate Doom's identity. 2016's Doom was one of the past year's most pleasant surprises, and a much revered return to form for the brand. It not only brought forward the series' original formula, but expanded on it to once again put Doom back on the bleeding edge of innovation. In honour of its recently announced Nintendo Switch release? Well, I'm GAMESD, and I'm going to tell you why Doom works. Just as a small clarification, this video will mostly discern Doom's single player content. A robust multiplayer is also included, as does a creative toolkit called Snap Maps for the PC, Xbox and PlayStation users. There's a lot to what makes Doom, the original, and Doom, the 2016 reboot, so fondly appreciated. But if there's one thing in particular that makes them stand out the most from their contemporaries, it's their affinity for arcade sensibilities. The game finds a common ground between Geometry Wars and Gears of War, a 3D space where surviving waves of enemies is the name of the game, as well as a constant push to find the exit. Heading off the beaten track is sometimes not only necessary to open the way ahead, but also becomes encouraged through the game's hearty scoring system. A Guitar Hero racing system for your combat efficiency only emphasises that this game takes its arcade credibility seriously, with a 5-star rating system that feeds directly into your upgrade tree. There's also micro-tasks that ask you to hit certain achievements and even find hidden secrets in the environment that also feed into expanding your upgrade points, not to mention reveal new wrinkles to your weapons and the world you're inhabiting. Wide open arenas are back, and this time with an extra dimension of verticality. At points, the game channels the frantic multiplayer nature of id's Quake-free arena, where enemies and engagement can take place between highs and lows, in corridors and nooks, and around small landmarks and arena gimmicks. The game makes the most of its 3D presentation, and isn't afraid to dress its levels with waves of enemies across elevations. Enemies in particular carry on the tradition of the original, by having unique behaviours and engagement patterns that only become more expanded due to the more open design. Imps scurry to flank you from all directions, mancubuses cause chaos from a distance, cacodemons float above your position to catch you off guard with slow moving and hard hitting projectiles, while Hell Knights get up close and personal to deliver hard hitting blows. There's plenty to keep you in the fray of battle, and Doom in particular makes a serious attempt of putting you in the middle of a fearsome firefight. The speed of your main character and the accuracy of hipfire means that strafing and circling enemies is once again a viable tactic, as is getting up close and personal. Perhaps its most compelling feature, and the one that gives the game its unique selling point, is the glory kill system. Health and ammunition is hidden in pockets around arenas, and should you be running low on either, they're there for a quick recuperation. However, the best way to replenish your stock is to engage directly with staggered enemies, closing in for a quick and brutally realised melee attack that results in a fountain of blue and orange pickups. This creates a delicious risk-reward system where, even if you're low on health, there's incentive to keep the fight going. Corridors, secret areas and platforming sections also do a lot to break the design, and give you small breaks between waves of enemies, and thanks to your new mobility, which includes a hearty double jump, they're far more satisfying to engage with. However, the game is at its best when you're engaged with enemies, and it's at this point that the high score driven nature of the game starts to make the most sense. Weapons are no longer just a single purpose tool for the job, and thanks to Doom's generous upgrade system that improves on the simple additional ammo or firepower dynamic of a more conventional title, you instead unlock whole new modifications that recontextualise your arsenal. Your starting shotgun alone gives you the choice between explosive shells and a triple shot, both perfect for specific situations and both with their own meaningful improvements. All the familiar arsenal is back and improved upon, with two in particular that act as guaranteed one-hit kills with more stringent ammo conditions. They're best used for creating mountains of ammunition when you need it, or to clear a particularly noisy environment. Finally, the game is tied together with a narrative that doesn't intrude too much on the core gameplay, and this fact is played for laughs in a few of the game's most memorable moments. The self-aware and sarcastic tone fits very well for this type of game, though at the time that Doom does lock you into a particularly long story segment, it does bring the bullet train to a painful stop. There's a lot more that could be said about this rebooted Doom, about certain set-piece encounters, story beats, or places where it started to wane my interest. But the fact of the matter is, if you're a fan of the first-person shooter, and have felt a little bored of linear and cinematic experiences, or are just looking for one that genuinely moves the medium forward, then I can't recommend the game enough. Just as the original Doom had created a branching point for an entire genre to grow from, my hope with this rebooted Doom is that people will look at its template for titles of their own.